Today's CMOs face many unpredictable disruptions that challenge the brand identities of their institutions. Dr. Hassan will be discussing insights from best practices on how universities are managing brand identities to sustain growth in disruptive times. As a speaker and executive coach, he's helped audiences around the world understand the influence of building strong brands on mobilizing performance. Dr. Hassan is a professor and director of graduate certificate in marketing and brand management at the School of Business, George Washington University. Welcome, Dr. Hassan.
Thank you, Rebecca. I'm delighted to be here, and it's a pleasure to have all of you with us, and I hope you're staying safe and staying healthy. Well, our topic today is redefining brand identity in disruptive times. In shaping up the agenda, we are certainly experiencing fundamental changes in the global economy. There are a lot of factors that are taking place that are affecting so many sectors globally, and certainly higher education is not an exception. These disruptions are resulting from the negative impact of the pandemic, along with major demographic changes, geopolitical backlashes. I know we can spend a lot of time talking about COVID and how it really is changing the world around us and how it is changing how we operate at the universities. But that's going to take a lot of time. So in the interest of time, I'm going to address basically how the brand ecosystem is changing and how is that requiring for us to redefine how we think about branding of higher education. So what we are going through here, really major disruptions and recently released data, for example, from the US Department of Education National Center for Education Statistics shows a decline in student enrollment during the past year as a result of COVID-19 pandemic, coupled with a decline in student retention rates and institutional revenues, and even decline in the number of employees on campuses around the country and around the world. However, nationwide enrollment, due to all of these major disruptions, the enrollment fell by 651,000 students. That represents a 3% decline from the fall of 2019-2020. Obviously, there are winners and losers. Some campuses may have gains, particularly in certain urban areas, public universities, and so forth. But this remains to be a major challenge. On the other hand, in the 21-22 academic year, it shows an increase of 43% in international student applications. That is when compared with the year 2020. Hence, graduate schools also around the country are considered a big winner in gaining 60% increase in international applications. So there is a surge in international applications, particularly for 21-22, and there is a severe decline nationally in the domestic applications. This represents a major challenge. However, there are some strategic opportunities in that respect. Despite these nationwide enrollment shifts, we find that university spending on marketing campaigns have surged over the past few years. Would you be surprised to know that colleges and universities spend on an average of $429 to about $623 per enrolled students per year. And this money is spent on marketing. So in order to attract and enroll students, there are some universities that are spending up to $600 per student per year. According to the Heckinger report, even smaller private universities, not-for-profit universities, for example, it was showcased in the Heckinger report, Catholic University and Catholic University president interview. And in that, it was stated that Catholic University in Washington, D.C., past year, they spent $5 million on marketing, just last year alone. Interesting also to know that major private universities are big spenders. Take a look at this particular table. Hopkins spending over $29 million. NYU, $28.5 million. University of Pennsylvania, $25.7 million. And so on. Stanford, $10 million. Georgetown, $11.6 million. So it's a big business. It is no surprise to notice that 2022 Best Global Universities rankings, according to the US News and World Report, have included 8 US private universities. I'm not saying the more you spend, the more you advance in ranking, but it is rather striking to notice that the big spenders happen to also be the top ranked universities, particularly the private universities, where the competitive intensity very high here. The more they spend, the more they attract a larger pool of applicants, the more they become selective, the more likely that they report very low acceptance rates, hence the ranking advances. This is just to show you 8 US private universities out of the best 10 global universities are some of the biggest spenders. That includes Harvard, MIT, Stanford, Berkeley, Oxford, that's UK obviously, Columbia, US, University of Washington, Cambridge, UK, Caltech, and Hopkins. All are American global brand universities. So it is a global industry. Higher education is a global industry. And the global elite brands are the private universities that are also happen to be the biggest spenders in marketing dollars. It is a big industry. Yeah. This points to the fact that higher education marketing is turning into really a big business. So it is not surprising to hear the B word is often spoken in university leadership circles nowadays. These new disruptions are changing the fundamental value proposition across academia today. Yeah. Nowadays, external stakeholders are demanding a totally reimagined higher education experience. That is to say that stakeholders, particularly students and their employers, are really interested in career-focused, relevant to digital transformation, an educational experience that is flexible, diverse, inclusive. That's what the stakeholders demand. These challenges are further complicated by a vast landscape of competitors, including top-tier universities. So it is not just the global elite, if you will, the top 10 best universities that are big spenders, but that is happening throughout the industry. Yeah? Universities are swiftly responding to these pressures, if you will, and for higher education institutions to sustain their leadership position as relevant to the common good, they must rethink and redefine their brand identity. In order to embrace digital transformation, diversity, demand for diversity and inclusion during these disruptive times. And beyond the pandemic, this requires exerted efforts in managing brand identity. So it is not, the dollars should not be just spent in big ads and football games and celebrity endorsements. I am advocating a very strong commitment to managing the brand identity and managing it carefully. Yeah. What I'm saying here, that we need to reimagine the brand, because the disruptive sweeping changes, particularly technological transformation, the pandemic, the big pressures, societal pressures on universities to be committed to diversity and to be an inclusive climate for all. What we are really faced with, a pressure to reimagine the brand. The brand is the university's lens to a diverse and inclusive culture that is committed to excellence, that need to be strategically managed. Managing brand identity is a process, therefore. It is a process of developing and integrating tangible and intangible brand assets to build synergy and to nurture advocacy. This includes alignment of the brand assets, the standards, the guidelines, the messages, the cues, aligning that with hundreds of thousands of touch points in order to help and shape a unified, harmonious, integrated brand experience. I am deeply indebted to Professor David Acker and his writings, and I had the honor of meeting him and even having a lunch next to him. I'm really inspired by his writings. And he really summed it in this statement. Brand identity is the unique set of brand associations that the brand strategists aspire to create or maintain. What are the brand associations that we are trying to create for our university in order to develop a harmonious, integrated brand culture within the university and to communicate that effectively to key stakeholders? It is a big challenge that is facing universities today, considering the fragmented nature of the global economy, considering the radical demographic shifts that are taking place, and considering the rising clouds of recognizing powerful university brands and university rankings are putting a lot of pressure on a lot of university leadership in order to manage the brand creatively, to manage the brand strategically, and to manage the brand in a transparent and effective and efficient way. It is not the more and the higher the spender that you can get a strong brand out there. It is how you are tactful, how you are creative, and how you are inclusive in building up a brand culture so people can, key stakeholders in that respect. Jeff Bezos have a sort of a colloquial definition of what brand identity is. He said, branding is what people say about you when you are not in the room. So how can you have a strong brand identity, that communicates effectively, whether you are in the room or not in the room, Jeff? So brand identity management needs a board within the university, need a systematic, careful process in order to manage it effectively and efficiently. However, there is a paradox related to how we align the brand position. There are forces here shifting back and forth here, having the brand that is consistent with other peer and aspiration institutional brands. For example, maintaining accreditation, maintaining student centricity, but coupled with that, as consistent that I need my brand to be, I have to be distinctive in my brand identity as well. So points of parity meets points of difference. There are issues that relate to consistency. As a higher education institution, we need to maintain them, but we need to set ourselves apart from some of the leading competitors in our brand ecosystem. Distinctiveness is very important in that respect. How distinctive I am in crafting a unique, differentiated value proposition that is authentic and that is highly appraised and supported by your key stakeholders. I would like to showcase two interesting examples on how to align brand position with student experience. I'm going to just pick on the student experience here because it's a very important one in building up the brand culture within the university. And I've identified two campuses that I had the pleasure of visiting, as a matter of fact, and I spoke at a joint workshop that was jointly developed by the Harvard Business School and the MIT Sloan School a few years back. And I had the pleasure of meeting faculty from both sides, as a matter of fact, also visiting both campuses in Boston, Cambridge. And it was an amazing experience that really I highly valued. So I'm going to showcase these striking how two big global brands like Harvard and MIT have managed to differentiate themselves, differentiate their brand culture on the dimension of student experience. I'm just picking up on one dimension here, student experience, student life on campus, and how they have, although they are in the same town, very short proximity from each other. From one campus ends, the other one starts, I guess. But you visit the campus of MIT and it looks really radically different from that of Harvard. They're appealing to the same type of student, affluent, high scores, commitment to excellence, unsurpassed. But let's see how MIT and Harvard campus life, for example, have positioned themselves in unique and differentiated ways. We are going to play a short video. It's a silent video. It's right from their website, the student life page of the same website the actual website of MIT. We are going to watch this brief video from MIT. As a matter of fact, it is very interesting to see. It's very interesting to see how a sharp focus on, I guess, science, technology, robotics, wild, outrageous, one may say even crazy. You saw how this is actually from their websites. This is the Harvard one, very serene, very conservative. One could say elitist, one would say maybe high society. This is from actual website. Very interesting how contrasting the two campus lifestyles are from the student perspective. So a big question is popping up here. So who's doing it right? You know, who's doing it right is really a subjective question here. Who's doing it right? It is right for the MIT to achieve its objective and fulfilling its vision, mission, and innovation, technology, hub, if you will. Contrasting that with the Harvard, advocating still purposeful branding. And this is the point that I'm trying to drive to. Well, they are both right, right in their own way. They both have one thing in common, however, despite these sort of drastic differences between the two campus life experiences, but with one sole commitment here, and that is purposeful branding. The brand is in well alignment with the purpose of the experience at MIT campus. Okay, I visited the Innovation Center, for example, and I spent nearly a good 2-3 hours in the Innovation Center at MIT. Something totally futuristic, unbelievable, totally futuristic. Students were all over, as well as visitors and parents, and they use that as a hub to showcase the latest future technology that is shaping our world in the future, and now shaping our world as we speak as well. Contrast that with the Harvard brand value proposition and the brand experience. It is purposeful branding for Harvard as well. They are committed to purpose here in terms of excellence, elitist, on the cutting edge of knowledge and theory, and amazing faculty as well, and amazing students. And I spent 3 days on campus, very lovely campus, more on the reserved side, if you will. So what we are saying here, there is no right way. What is right is how purposeful you are and shaping your brand strategy. Do you have a strong, well-articulated, common purpose that we all buy into within the university, and there is a major pride in that purpose, a major commitment, and the university leadership all the way to all stakeholders, the employees, the faculty, the students, excited about, inspired with that common purpose. And then you shape the brand, and you shape and celebrate the brand, and share the story of the brand globally, and the sky is the limit. That is why we have to have a brand strategy. It is not good enough to say, well, I have a communication team on place, we are hitting left and right all these communication messages, we'll see what works and what doesn't work. I am sorry. Yeah, these are multiple shots in the dark. We have to have a unified brand board on the university campus that assume the stewardship of the brand, that are multi-stakeholder sort of community that involves leadership as well as the frontline people. Inclusive, integrated, harmonious, constantly, setting strategies, monitoring strategies, aligning, auditing the brand periodically, for us to be able to celebrate that common purpose that we hold close to our soul, close to our heart, and that builds around it a unique culture. I built 3 fundamental questions, and I call them really the key 3 pillars for managing brand identity. And these can work for corporate as well as not-for-profits. They're so fundamental questions. Why do we have a brand strategy that is committed to purposeful branding, that is committed to a strong core values that we all buy into? That is the why question. That is the most fundamental question. Having common purpose that we all buy into. The second question is the what. What would it take to celebrate this as an experience, as a cultural icon? And then, last but not least, how to create an engaging brand culture, engaging of all stakeholders here, engaging also of the community, celebrating our diversity, and being inclusive and empowering for all. Some universities have been incredibly successful with that. Some have been trying, and some few, maybe a lot, a lost. So it is to what extent here that you have a leadership commitment to the brand here. And in engaging the community is a very powerful statement here. So the main lens of the brand is really the cultural lens. And brands are built inside. Brand's identity then communicated to the stakeholders and celebrated through all these alumni events and memorable occasions that the students had on campus once they graduate, but also celebrated on campus. Everybody buys into that icon. We call it our university brand. This is a case that I spent quite some time building, and actually was published in a video with Sage Publications. I believe Sage is the publisher of some of the journals of the American Marketing Association. Brand building pyramid, I call it. And the case study is for the Ritz-Carlton. And I have done several senior level interviews. As a matter of fact, I'm indebted to 2 former senior VPs of the Ritz-Carlton and some of our former students that I have engaged also in conversations and really learning about the culture of the Ritz-Carlton. Now, one would say, well, this is hospitality industry. How does that relate to higher ed? A lot. There are a lot of lessons that for us to learn from the Ritz-Carlton. It is really the Ritz-Carlton brand is being built with a commitment first to a higher purpose, a higher commitment to excellence, a higher commitment to having this installed through the culture of the through the culture of the Ritz-Carlton. Employees are hired based on that sole purpose. To what extent they are happy, helpful people. That's what they told me, as a matter of fact. They said that's what we look for. We are very selective and we are very, very demanding and very sensitive to these issues. Do they contribute to that sole purpose, that promise? Are they helpful people? Are they kind people? Are they welcoming people? And then the pledge is we are, ladies and gentlemen, serving ladies and gentlemen. They didn't say we are, ladies and gentlemen, served by ladies and gentlemen. No. They are, ladies and gentlemen, the employee empowerment is very strong in the culture of the Ritz-Carlton. No? Satisfaction breeds satisfaction. Behavior breeds behavior. The brand is built inside, within the culture of the organization. That's why you see Ritz-Carlton employees, whether they are the bell person or the GM, they will tell you, and I've spoken to some of them, and they will tell you, I've been working here for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. And I say, what is your dream job? They say, I am in my dream job. And I say, is there anywhere else you would, any other hotel you would know? He said, they say, no, this is my dream job. I love here. And they will not leave here because the culture breeds that kind of behavior within the Ritz-Carlton. As a matter of fact, there are a lot of other companies, mobile, and you would say, what does mobile have in common with the Ritz-Carlton? Amazingly, I guess ladies and gentlemen pumping gas and ladies and gentlemen cars here. But they used the Ritz-Carlton as a benchmark for their customer experience and building up a rich commitment to customer experience. So a very strong commitment to the why, having that strong brand pledge that really communicates who you are. As a matter of fact, and I've been shared this, this is basically the 3 steps of service, the motto, the brand promise, the credo of the Ritz-Carlton, the service values of the Ritz-Carlton. This is in the wallet of every Ritz-Carlton employee. Yeah. As a matter of fact, every day, in their quality circles, they meet at the end of the day and they share with each other how each one have done good to meet one of these objectives. And they celebrate it at the end of the year with awards and what have you. So what we are saying, the cultural lens is what builds leading brands, particularly in the service sector. What do we have in common with the Ritz-Carlton? We are service organizations. We have stakeholders. We are a learning organization as well. I remember they say we learn from each other. So the Ritz-Carlton is certainly a best practice here. What do we see here? That strong commitment to employee engagement, guest engagement, commitment to quality and service excellence. And then how do we do it? The logo, the credo, the motto, the employee promise. That is what I call it, the brand building pyramid. Has to have a strategy, has to have a purposeful branding, has to have core values, has to have emotional connection, has to have a set of brand assets. Some of these brand assets are tangible or intangible, and how can we strike a balance in building the brand? Identifying unique value proposition is not an easy task. And I call them cliché-ish traps here that oftentimes inexperienced brand, or they assume to be brand strategists with probably no prior training whatsoever in brand management or brand strategy. And they come up with, I call them cliché-ish traps here, and that they say we are student focused. Well, hundreds of other universities are claiming that they are student focused as well. We are really committed to real world experience. Dozens of other universities are across town or across the region, across the country, or across the world of claiming the same thing. We are team-based. So what I'm saying, don't just focus on the, yes, these are necessary. These are not sufficient, however, to build your differentiated advantage. You don't build on commonalities. You build on what makes you special, what makes you unique, what makes you desirable. That's what you focus on. I did an interesting project for a major university with an iconic hospitality program in the tourism and hospitality field, and it was not George Washington University. We do have a very strong tourism program, however, but I'm not speaking of George Washington University in this case. I'm speaking of that, and I did present the program. This was part of my assessment that I developed for this leading university on their elitist hospitality college. And I said, of course, we went after all these questions that I was talking about. But then I said, who are your competitive set? And they said, we have different competitors here. We have regional competitors, we have national competitors, and we also have global competitors. Through a series of interviews, we started isolating these and clustering these competitors and looking at commonalities and looking at what sets some of these competitors apart. And we started slotting them according to the brand building pyramid and the three fundamental questions. The why, the what, and the how. Well, interestingly, of course, the university had a very strong core value, commitment, and leadership, assuming leadership through cutting-edge research. That was unquestionable. That is a core value for them, leadership through cutting-edge research. So we said, okay, let's then look into how your competitors are doing on that. Interestingly, the top-tier universities have addressed all three fundamental questions with a strong commitment to purpose, purposeful brands. The second-tier universities didn't have a very strong commitment to purposeful branding, but they were really busy and looking in where are we and how can we get better and how can we be like XYZ, if you will. And that's the danger territory here. You are not looking internally, you are looking externally. How can I be like? Not how can I bring my best forward? So it's a different mindset here. So we started talking about this and they said, that's not us. And I said, very good, but by the way, that is what's going on in these institutions here. And then we looked at those that are just busy on how can we look good. So how can we just look good? So how can we look better than we are? And how can we increase awareness? And I always say awareness is necessary, but it is not sufficient. So awareness is a first step. You need to be engaging. You need to build memorable experience, lasting experience. So your brand will be an icon brand celebrated by your alumni. Flashing back on MIT, Harvard, by the way, both of them have the most active and most engaging alumni chapters globally. You talk to any alumni, they say, oh my God, I envy, Harvard, MIT alumni. Oh my God, they are all over. Amazing. That comes from what? That comes from a very strong, purposeful brand with a very strong, iconic brand culture. So what we are saying here, this can be done. And these universities, and I showed them how these best practice universities, and some of them are global even, particularly in Switzerland, in the hospitality field. There's a big icon brand there, and we looked into how are they doing it. So what did it take for them to build that leadership brand within the university, particularly this particular college? And that can be College of Engineering, College of Business, and so forth. Or it could be the university. So we looked into what I call them the 4 R's. Researching very carefully, your competitive landscape. Realigning with best practices, not just accreditation standards, but also the stakeholder communities, and linking with industry, and linking with alumni, and being a global player, international mindset, if you will. That's the second R, realignment. The third R, recognizing how the university can fulfill, realign its vision. Realign your vision. It's a two-way street. Okay, its vision, mission, strategic plan with the brand, and with the ecosystem of the brand. Renewing stakeholder trust, empathy, and engagement, and that's a critical one. These are the 4 R's, and build programming around them. Within this framework, the brand will expand the visibility, evolve the reputation, and maximize the national and global impact of the university brand. Working collectively with university leadership teams, schools, career centers and institutes to further develop new resources. And this is a big one now, in order to support outstanding learning experiences, with a strong commitment to continuing to embrace diversity and inclusion. To reinforce this vision, to reinforce and sustain a strong university brand leadership, it is essential to set the standard for engaging local and regional industry in outstanding education research experiences based on the following pillars. This is very important. Connecting students with ideas and the world. Global thinking, very important. All the big brands are global leaders. Expanding the horizons of engagement beyond the classroom, beyond the campus experience, to include the business community as well as civic engagement, to inspire students to become productive, informed citizens in local, regional, national, even global communities. That's part of the brand. That's central to what I call it, the cultural lens of the icon brand. developing innovative initiatives and programs that will attract top students. Study abroad programs, capstone, by the way, study abroad programs build memorable experiences. I ran a study abroad program for 7 years. And still to this date, I meet students that finished the program with me 10 years ago. And they say, that was my most memorable experience on campus. It was not even on campus. It was, yes, tied to a campus program. Capstone experiences, student research center, mini grants, sponsored internships, career centers, amazing. Then building the story and sharing the story and celebrating the story, in all integrated communication way. It is about telling your story to the world in an inspiring way, to create a unique and differentiated, unified, balanced brand that we all share in common here. It is very important to move beyond awareness. A lot of communication programs are running around and they are just awareness programs. Yes, that is fundamental, but like I said, that's not sufficient. Rather, it should be more focused on engagement, commitment, advocacy that leads to testimonials, referrals, and ongoing partnership with key stakeholders, building an engaging brand experience to support the university's strategic plan. This framework will reinforce the university's brand to achieve the desired position of building, differentiating, leveraging national and global brand leadership. How to manage a healthy brand? It is very important to be consultative culture. It is very important to share ideas and to buy into a common feel, a common culture, client-oriented, student-centered, transparent. And here is a strong commitment to diversity, not just lip service, but diverse, inclusive, and empowering, genuinely and authentically, and accessible commitment to the stakeholder community. In conclusion, creating mutual culture that we all buy into, that we all feel a strong sense of empathy with, that is engaging, will be more sustainable, that will be more trustworthy. That's what brand leadership is. Building healthy culture that is collegial, that builds and focuses on partnership within campus and off campus and globally. Thank you for your attention. Welcome any questions if there are any.
So we have someone in the chat asking about one of the comparisons you made in one of your slides. They couldn't remember it. It said not how to be liked / looked good / look good, but, and then they forgot the latter half.
Not to look good, but to maybe be, it is not just about the sizzle. It is not about the shiny veneer. It is about really the core brand culture inside. And oftentimes I'm not saying the shiny veneer is not important, but I'm saying it is not what branding is all about. It is that strong commitment to purposeful branding, the core, right? In an authentic, transparent, inclusive, and diverse way. I don't know if anything was lost in the translation.
No, I think you did a great job of re-explaining that. We have another question, and you touched upon this a little bit with the 4 Rs, but how will we know when it's time to redefine our brand, and any indicators and kind of what people should look for?
Well, let me tell you when it should not. And this has been really the case. I have seen universities spend millions of dollars in branding campaigns, and then leadership changes, and 5, 6 years later, another big spender comes and spends more money, in an opposite direction or a different direction. And that, I would tell you, that what we should not do. There ought to be consistency. If you are right to the, you never hear about MIT or Harvard have changed their brand identity, or there are even big spenders here. Well, let's just change the logo of the university. And you will be surprised. You will be really surprised. Some communication staff, and I think this is where the AMA, if I may recommend, with all due respect, of course, I'm a big, long-time AMA member and advocate of the AMA, and I think it is the AMA's, particularly the higher ed, advocating some sort of certification, a formal certification here that people that assume these communication and branding leadership positions in universities, I think an added layer of AMA certification there will go a long way here. I have seen a lot of money spent, and unfortunately, I hate to say wasted, without accomplishing any purpose, just because somebody told somebody, let's change this look and feel of this. It is not about the shiny veneer, as I said. Branding is not just about the shiny veneer. It is the core, the purposeful brand. Purposeful brand are sustainable, are more long-lasting. So I would say that what we should not do, what we should do really, and I highly advocate that, and I have done branding of cities, branding of even countries. I've worked with 3 countries on branding initiatives, and universities are cities in their own way, university campuses, So branding a university, really, we got to have a branding board on campus. I'm a big advocate of that, and I would love to work with your team on how can we do that. I think that is a big mandate moving forward here. A branding board with the proper training and the proper certification and the proper mandate. Of course, you need leadership approval and leadership endorsement, and that is a role for you to play as well, is educating. If you don't mind, with all due respect, a lot of leadership, assume leadership of universities, they are not branding experts. They are not. So we need to have the right set of advisors whispering in their ears. It is not about just logo or slogan. It is not just about the shiny veneer. It is about more authentic, strong brand culture. Once we build that, that will be more sustainable. And the 4 Rs are really a step in the right direction to move us in that way. And we found it workable. It worked in this particular institution that I was talking about as a case study. And I think that is the way to go. And I see a lot of excitement in that space. I think the number of attendees that have been really increasing over the years. I've been watching the higher ed symposium is remarkable here, and it really shows how this higher ed is an industry, is really a lucrative business. There are agencies really now that it's an industry cluster now, and I think the future is yet to happen for us in higher ed branding and marketing and communications. This is an amazing space that we are really starting to see an excitement happening around it. And I would like to commend you and your team and really putting such a phenomenal, I've sat in a couple of the discussion sessions And I'm very impressed by the caliber and the stature of the people that you have been attracting to this conference. So congratulations to you and your team, hats off. And let's keep talking, and hopefully year after year, we're gonna build something phenomenal for our own universities.
Yes, thank you so much. And yes, AMA is always looking on ways to improve. So really appreciate your advice as well on that. And that's all the time we have.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Hassan, for being here with us and giving such a great presentation. With that, we have about a 45-minute lunch break, and then we'll be back with more breakout sessions at 1:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. Also, please take the survey by clicking the survey tab to the right of the session window, or you can find it in the Attendee Hub main page so we can gather your feedback and improve year after year. Thank you, everyone, and we'll see you later.
Thank you, Rebecca. Thank you so much. Take care.